Hi, everybody. This is Saad. A couple of days ago, I received an email from a woman from Belgium. Uh, I wanted to read her email on the show, and so I wrote to her asking her permission to do so, and that I wouldn't otherwise share her identity. She graciously agreed, and so I'm going to read it for you here. Dear Mr. Gad, I'm sending you an email since I'd rather not comment on your YouTube podcast, Islam and the West. Suicidal empathy will destroy our civilization. The sad truth, 1944, in public for safety reasons. So she doesn't feel comfortable being a Western woman commenting about on my YouTube channel about a clip that I shared. That should already tell you all you need to know. But let's go on. I have listened to a few of your podcast episodes and they have been very enlightening to me. I'm a Belgian mom who moved to Spain 7 years ago to escape extremely high taxation, bad weather, high crime, and the Islamization of all big cities in Belgium. I grew up in the Belgian countryside in the 1980s and 90s and moved to Brussels in 2006 metro book style area after graduating with my then husband, who is black African. We lived in a mainly Moroccan neighborhood because it was cheap and we liked Moroccan food and music. At the time, I was fairly idealistic and very open minded. That changed quickly because I was cursed out on the daily because I am Dutch speaking, because my husband was black. Many Moroccans despise black people. I was followed around in the street. When I would return from dance class, they would ask why I was still outside. I was treated like dirt merely for being an emancipated woman that does not cover up. They often looked at me like I'm a piece of meat ready to be raped. And by the way, as a side note, I've heard these exact same stories from innumerable people. After my divorce, I moved to Antwerp metro drink area, also in a Moroccan neighborhood, because that was all I could afford as a single mom at the time. And I suffered so many incidents with Moroccan, Pakistani, Afghan, Syrian men. At least 95% of all the problems were with them. I was sexually assaulted on my way to dance class. I was threatened and harassed on public transportation, tram lines 12 and 24. I was called N-word slut because my daughter is half black. We've witnessed multiple stabbings, burglaries, attacks on the police. The police often wouldn't do anything, they would turn a blind eye, etc. I saw a lot of money laundering businesses, lots of drug dealings, etc. The Belgian court system did not and still does not punish violent crime. I was nearly killed on the sidewalk by Moroccan guys doing car races. When they have weddings, they usually hang outside their rented cars and cause dangerous traffic situations, but the police don't do anything. I was asked plenty of times how much my rate is to sleep with them. Whenever I told them to get lost, I always yelled something back because I refused to be disrespected like that. They would call me racist or even Nazi bitch. When I was living in Brussels, I once took my daughter to Saad, which is an open air tropical swimming pool. The experience was horrible. It was full of Muslim men in Speedos that were very unruly and unbehaved, whereas their women were mostly covered up in bikinis. I witnessed a few Moroccan girls in bikinis being harassed by Moroccan boys because they weren't covered up. The Moroccan boys would skip the line, and the Belgian boys were too afraid to say something, so they just let it happen. In Antwerp, my daughter went to a Catholic school that had predominantly Muslim kids because the municipality had convinced me to give it a shot. It was the nearest school and they wanted to attract more middle class parents. However, my daughter would often come home saying things like Bismillah and then a whole lot of Arabic prayers that I didn't understand. She would say, Allah will box Jesus, ham is haram, nail polish is haram, stupid Belgian, kafir, that there were a lot of virgins in paradise. She used to be afraid of shaitan. I guess that was Satan. When there were open days, the food would be halal for all. When I complained to the principal about this, she would say that we need to be tolerant. I told the principal I don't mind my daughter eating halal food occasionally when she is attending an Islamic event or party, but that in a Catholic school, I expect my daughter to eat non-halal food. On public transportation, I didn't have a car at the time. I overheard so many young Moroccan teenagers making fun of Belgian people. I always had the impression that they don't like the West at all and that they would love for the West to turn fully Islamic over time. Muslim kids would tell me that to my face, that they will take over in 30 years. That was almost 20 years ago. I feel like Belgium is completely brainwashed. All that they talk about is super diversity and tolerance and kindness. And whenever a new terrorist attack happens, they'll tell us not to generalize, to light a few candles, and that most Muslims also condemn this. They are more afraid of the backlash a terrorist attack might create among Belgian native population. There is some kind of omerta, and we are just not allowed to talk about it. We are constantly being gaslit about these huge problems and are told it's all in our head and that the real problem is the far right, even though I personally don't know anyone that is far right. Since the 2000s, Belgians have become very tolerant to other races, and hardcore racists have become very rare, especially in young people. Even in my own family and friends are still in the denial phase and they think I am obsessed with it. I always tell them to stop watching mainstream media, which is what I did when I moved to Spain, but they think I'm overreacting and overly distrusting of mainstream media. Anyways, all of this to say, please continue to educate the people on YouTube. It's very useful to know the history of all this. Most people are unaware. Have a nice day. Kind regards. And then she signs her name. So this person was consistently harassed, was sexually assaulted, was attacked always by Muslims of different types, largely Moroccan, but Afghani, Syrian, Pakistani. There are thousands and thousands of other such stories that I could share that you could read on. But no, you are racist if you think that all cultures are not perfectly equal and all immigrants are not equally likely to assimilate. Have a great day, everybody.